It's been a while since I've done something like this, hasn't it? Hell yeah, this'll be fun. This song has been stuck in my head since it got released. I have been playing it on loop, and now here we are with me deconstructing what is going on in the video to glean as much as we can from it, because this is going to decide likely what is going on for the next few patches and imply a lot of it. So it's valuable to see what we can get out of it. It also gives me an excuse to continue listening to this song with actual purpose, because it's looping in my head still. So let's begin. So the little opening section here, we see Acheron, who has the aesthetics of a peacock, which is quite interesting. The colour scheme matches, and he's almost got the feathers at the back. And then we've got the Trailblazer with the hat, which could potentially be a new path for him, which is, yet again, interesting and makes me curious. I'm assuming it's going to be Harmony because of the area we're in, because the last time we got a path, it was tied to the place it was in. So we got the preservation in a place that reveres the preservation. So it makes sense if this would be Harmony. Element-wise, no idea. Good question. And despite the Trailblazer as a trash raccoon, we see him with quite the moves. Then we get to see Robin and Sunday in the car together. Their attitudes towards this are very different. We see Robin actively enjoy the moment and acknowledge us, meanwhile Sunday is completely ignoring us. This could represent their roles in the story or in Penacony itself, where one of them is far more detached than the other. It could have deeper meanings, but who knows. We get 2 character introductions in the small boy getting his luggage knocked over and Gallagher just flicking a lighter. So I'd assume that's the only purpose each of them show, unless it implies a connection between those two. Then we see Sparkle with her illusion of Koi as she roams around, and we see her eye change into a Sakura petal, which it seems kind of tied to her animations, but it's introducing her character and showing her mischievousness. Then we see Black Swan with the stained glass and her tarot cards, which to be honest is probably one of the most beautiful frames in this entire animation. It's so pretty, but it kind of shows her role here. We see a black swan actually on the tarot card, but we don't see what the tarot card shows in this case, so it's almost like the future's unknown to us, but, well, the idea of the future is unknown to us, but it might be perceived by her already. And then we kind of see, actually, if you stop the frame, I thought it was the creature from her animation, the thing that we see in her ultimate, but if you stop the frame, it's actually the death creature because you can see the eye and the claw. The boss that we're potentially going to fight unto death. It's also not the first time they are going to allude to the idea of death in this opening. Then we see Firefly, who is easily the most intriguing character probably within this animation, with sparklers, which are short-lived almost because of the way that they fizzle out in the end. They are a very fleeting thing, and I think that's the point of this. This entire opening makes a point of her being fleeting for some reason or another, and we'll come back to that point later. And then we see the Trailblazer seemingly catch a photo of the moment as if to keep it, to preserve it. Then we see a transition. To me, it's more visual. We see the Trailblazer basically progressing forward. It's almost like a time skip for it, through a spiral corridor. Next, we see them in an area that has quite a few clocky things within it, and looking up at something seemingly falling. The shot then connects to Firefly falling in kind of a whimsical light. Then we see Acheron in a strangish form that kind of implies he's not human, which I highly rate. What is he? Who knows? He could be literally anything. It could just be an outfit that's like really out there, but I'd like to think it's his actual appearance. That's just my personal hope though. Before it pans into his human form and he whispers the lines of the song. Then we see a pan on Clocky, then the Trailblazer throwing their hat in that new potential form within Penacony, and a bunch of creatures. This is all scenery that's kind of showing you the location. I don't think there's actually that much meaning going on in these moments. It's showing us enemies and it's showing us location. Then we see Dan Hung within the whales, despite he's likely not going to be here, really. You can tell it's potentially him because of the dark hair and the white body. Next is Himiko. So we're getting shots that are kind of tied to the characters. The thing I'm curious about is the meaning of them, because in the case of Dan Hung's, you see surrounded by ocean-related creatures, and we know that as a Vidyadhara, that makes actually quite a lot of sense. While Himiko is kind of in the center, and we see circles around her. She's sat on one, and we see orbs around her, which to me imply the different planets. It could be implying like her desire for trailblazing. Then March, as a giant taking photos of things, while Welt/Joachim is very small and kind of ahead of her. Those two being panned together to me is quite interesting, because in the original material we got that revealed Star Rail, we got to see Reburn, which showed a character that looked very much like March speaking to Carol, who was going with Welt, implied on this kind of journey. So it's interesting they're tying them kind of together again when the design similarity was already kind of made before and the connection was kind of made. The character that gave Carol the flower looks a lot like March, and if that is still canon, then it's interesting if there's a connection there. Then we see Black Swan in front of a background that's just spinning, but with her cards present. And then we see the cards go into the flames as the scene transitions into Sam. It's almost like she already knows what's going on with potentially the characters here. And I think that's the point that's being made too. Then we see Sam fly with green light that's almost like wings from the back. There's a lot of good shots that kind of emphasize it. It's jet thrusters, but the way it comes out is almost like it's wings. And we also see bolts of lightning being slashed at Sam. The thing is here, we got faked out by Honkai before, because Honkai made the Honkai Impact 3rd players at one point think that Durandal and May were going to fight. No, but this actually isn't seemingly a fake out, and I will show you why. It's like you see the zoom in where the lightning strikes and the colours here. And it's Acheron doing it with the black petals. But it's like this could be an unrelated scene, but what isn't is you can see Acheron here above Sam, while Sam is really messed up. And you can tell it's Acheron because the colour's being used. You can see the hint of purple here and the white, which makes a very clear point of Acheron. So those two are actually duking it out, or are fighting near each other. And the reddish kind of blackish effect also, and the lightning, all imply her too. We saw the red strike come from her. While we see the protagonist running through Bellabog and turn into a trash can that hits Sampo. Now here's the idea of Firefly being transient again. We see her literally disappear into light at the end. So the implication is that something's going to happen to her, or we're not going to actually have much time with her at all. We see Acheron falling into seemingly a black hole, if not some kind of abyss. Like, to me, there's a lot of imagery that suggests this woman is actually tied to nihility. Not just path-wise. And it's something I've gotten into debates over already, because in her artwork, we see a domain that's seemingly black and white with only red flowers, and her outfit turning, like her hair turning white and her outfit turning black and red. It's like, it's almost like something is very hidden about this woman. And now here we're seeing her crying while falling into potentially a black hole. She's actually being tied to nihility. And that interests me a lot. She's also crying, which kind of stands in contrast to the emotional range we've seen on her so far. It suggests she feels quite deeply and cares. And then we see Sam's armor disappearing, with a red wisp similar to the colours used in Acheron's attacks. And we also earlier saw Sam wounded by potentially Acheron. Which, there seems to be some sort of conflict between Sam and Acheron here, but we don't know the reason why. But we know that potentially, if Firefly and Sam are connected, and in this video it's being implied that Firefly could either die or disappear, or that we're just not going to have much time with that existence, then a potential entity of nihility hunting down someone who shouldn't be alive or is wanting to die seems kind of possible, doesn't it? All I know is that the more you look into stuff around Acheron, the more suspect the idea of her being a Galaxy Ranger kind of is. Because they're virtuous. Yes, Sam is a Stellaron hunter, but then if the connection is to this girl, who's seemingly very innocent in all of the material we've seen around Penacony so far, then can't you get past that? It's not like Sam's done some of the major criminal activity within the Stellaron hunters anyway. Kafka's the one with the biggest bounty we've seen. Then we see the Trailblazer and Clocky tilt at their hats, which is just to showcase those two again. Also, the purpose of the entire song seems to mention the idea of something transient and eventually going to the other side and motivations behind doing so. The other side normally, when we refer to it, is the idea of death and an afterlife. So it makes me think, even though we see that it's Aventurine being shown singing the song, it doesn't mean it's necessarily from his perspective. I think the more likely perspective of this song is either Firefly, Sam, or Acheron. The reason why I'm thinking Firefly, potentially who is connected to Sam, is the most likely perspective is because she's shown as fleeting throughout the entire thing and even disappears at the end. And the main conflict of this music video includes, I don't want to be alone tonight, leave me with your altered signs, and it shows Sam fighting Acheron. If there is a connection between Firefly and Sam, then this story is, and this entire song is seemingly very much about them. Also, I just found this, so I knew I recognised the singer of this song, but that part doesn't matter. We now know the full version of this song because it's been released. So let's go back. Bop. Okay, so, to clarify something, these two lyrics are really significant, especially if Firefly is Sam, because it's the idea of utilizing a disguise to hide the truth about herself, or she might not be aiming to do so, but if that connection exists, then this song is definitely from Firefly's perspective. If it's not, then that's a question for another time. But for now, my assumption is the song is from Firefly's perspective, and this part is the significant part for it, and turns it from being a question that I made earlier when I first recorded the video to me now being pretty damn sure. Anyway, that's enough interjection from future me, who was literally in the middle of editing and then found the full version of the song. There's a lot going on here. And there's a lot of elements that kind of need to be considered outside of it as well. The more you look at stuff relating to Acheron, the more suspect she becomes. And I love it, but that's not the point. It's like, within her art, you can see it here. Her hair is turning white or grey, and her outfit's turning red and black. While surrounding her is the same grayscale. So clearly, the environment's being impacted by her, all this death, all this destruction, and those red flowers, while looking like a blood moon descending upon the earth with her umbrella. She is heavily suspect, and it's mentioned that she doesn't actually she strikes with the scabbard and never draws her sword by freeing it, yet we see the sword free inside of the music video, so this woman is willing to. It's just what gets her to do that, and what happens when she does. And it says she's only claiming to be a Galaxy Ranger. It doesn't say she is one. It also says we don't know her actual name, so the name she's chosen for herself is the river that leads to the underworld in Greek mythos. It's kind of questionable why someone like that would be the follower of the hunt. And we see even her name is showing the turn to red. We saw red slashes, so these little transitions, it's not just blood on her outfit, because why would it be impacting her hair? Something is really going on with her. So the implied conflict between Sam and Acheron is probably going to be one of the most interesting things about this, but there seems to be quite a few story elements at play here, and it's a dream world, so we have a lot of opportunities to potentially explore what's going on with members of the cast. There's a lot of meaningful shots within this opening that really catch your attention, and I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on with each of them. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd appreciate if you liked and subscribed. Have a good night, morning, day, whatever time it is, wherever you guys are in the world, and take care of yourselves.